So what I want to do now is introduce you to Cindy Jones. Let me go ahead and get her set up so that she can speak to you. And she's coming from the Department of Juvenile Justice. The last time we did a webinar, some of you had some concerns about safety and the sort and just wanted to know what to expect in working with the students in these facilities. So Cindy has kindly joined us. Hi, Cindy, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, great. The floor is all yours. Just let me know how you want me to advance the slides.
Okay. Just welcome everyone, and we are excited to get this STAR program on track in our DJJ programs. And I've spoken to a few people that are interested, and I think it's really going to be quite a benefit to our youth, especially as they come out and transition back to their home communities and have that self-advocacy piece as a bonus as they leave their programs. So you can go ahead, Carmen. What I'd like to just sort of give you a little background on what types of programs you will be working in. Right now we have them broken. Our commitment, our residential commitment programs are broken into a non-secure designation and a high and max risk commitment status. So you see here that the non-secure commitment, even though it says non-secure, it still has staff secure. Doors are typically locked. Sometimes there are high fences. There are no razor wires at our non-secure commitment facilities, but they are still hardware secure and staff secure. So these youth are on the lower end of our spectrum for committed youth, and they have, of course, made a few mistakes along the way, and they are in a commitment facility, but most of them have some type of supervised access available to the community. Maybe not when they first go there, but towards the end of their stay, most of them would be able to have supervised access to the community. A typical non-secure commitment is about an average of 6 months stay. Could be as little as 4 months, but typically the average is about 6 months. You can go ahead, Carmen. The next risk factor is considered high risk. Some of our programs are high and max risk, all on the same campus. They will have them separated. These youth require a little bit more supervision, and these are always perimeter fenced, locking doors, same basic thing as the non-secure, but the security may be a little bit more. The youth are typically not in the communities for any activities, and this length of stay is a little bit longer, usually an average of 9 to 12 months. The next slide shows us our maximum risk commitment. These youth have been assessed as a little more serious risk to the public safety, and they are supervised much more closely. They are not, I know this next bullet says, and I got this off of our website, but placement at a maximum risk is prompted by a demonstrated need to protect the public. That kind of sounds a little frightening, but they're just regular kids. It's just the fact that their security is a little bit higher than some of the other programs. They are hardware secured, again, with perimeter fencing and locking doors. And some of their restrictions coming into these maximum risk programs are a little bit more involved than you would see in the non-secure commitment facilities. These youth have an average length of stay a little bit longer, 18 to 36 months. They can stay there. 36 months is somewhat rare, but we do have them sometimes that long. I hope that doesn't scare anybody off, because like I said, they are just kids, and I think you'll figure that out when you get there and work with them. And if you're anything like me, it was the best population of kids I've ever worked with in a school setting. So I like the DJJ kids, and I think you'll find that population is a great group of kids to work with. So the next slide shows us some of the program restrictions that you're going to see, and I want to stress these because I don't want anybody to take anything personally. This happens to everybody, even the DJJ people, and we work for the agency. But when you get to the program, you're going to have to sign in. Many of them will require you to be wanded or scanned upon your arrival. Non-secure, not so much, but max and high risk will definitely wand and scan you. You will more than likely have to turn in your keys. They will not allow you to have cell phones in the facility, purses, or any other personal belongings. So, if they take those things, your best bet is just to lock them up in the car. But they will take your keys, and there's a good reason for that. So you don't want your keys to go in some kid's pocket. Materials being brought into the facility, again, they may go through those materials. If you have a notepad, or if you have papers, or some of them, if you have papers that you want to staple together. I'm not sure what your curriculum materials will look like. Some of our programs do not allow staples. So hopefully you can get all of that discussed and clarified and cleared prior to going in there the first time. It's a good idea to speak with your liaison person, whoever your contact is, and find out what those restrictions are at that program, because every program has a different set of standards and restrictions for what they allow to come into the facilities. So you would get that approved and let them know, no surprises. Don't bring any surprises into the program. You're never allowed to take photos of the youth. If you do need photos for any, anything that you want to turn in, any news reports or something you want to send to us to highlight from one of your STAR programs, you could talk to your liaison person, or the facility administrator. Staff at the facility sometimes can do those photos for you, and they get them to you. So, but you are not allowed to take any photos of the youth. Then expectations of the providers, that would be you. Like I said, please ask any questions prior to going into the facility. That way when you get there, you won't say, well, I didn't know I couldn't bring this in, or I didn't know we couldn't do this, or I didn't know they couldn't have pens, or whatever. So, get that squared away ahead of time with whoever your contact is at that facility. Typically, they will have the kids ready for you wherever that class is going to take place. So try to be prompt and keep to the agreed upon schedule. Please remember that it may take a few minutes to get into the facility, with signing in and coming through locked doors and things like that. So might be a good idea to be there a few minutes early. If you are not able to make a specific scheduled class, please contact the facility as early as possible so that they don't have to get those kids ready for that meeting. And anytime anytime you have a concern, you see something you don't like, something happens in that class, please go to your liaison, that school contact, immediately and let them know that. We have some other programs that work within our facilities, and when we get a report 2 months down the road that this happened or this happened on a specific day, we don't want it 2 months down the road. We would like to know about it today or tomorrow. So please, if there's anything, hopefully nothing will happen, but if you do see or hear anything that concerns you, report that so that they can determine whether it's something that needs to be addressed. Expectation of the program staff. Those are the secure staff people that will be in the programs. Next slide, Carmen. They are the ones that will take care of any behavior of the students in the class. They will be in charge of all of the behavioral issues that may arise. You will never be alone with kids. Behavioral staff will always be there. They will, provide that safety and security. And like I said, the youth should be ready for you when you get there. And again, the program itself should contact you in a timely manner if there's any reason that they would have to cancel that class. Shouldn't happen, but sometimes things come up. So those are a couple of things. I did want to go back to what Carmen mentioned about the 2 hours per week. Hopefully for 10 weeks, that will be able to be scheduled at each facility. When the kids get out of school, they're required to go to school just like other youth within any district. Once they get out of school, their day's pretty well scheduled. They have groups, they have dinner at a certain time, showers, sometimes they have visitation. They have specific scheduled events almost every day from the time they get out of school to bedtime. So I know that one of the programs that I had talked about this program in, the facility administrator was there, and he felt like Saturdays would be an excellent time for a 2-hour class of this nature. So I don't know if many of you can do that type of a schedule, but each one is going to be different. So, you may be able to get a 2-hour block on one day. You may only be able to get an hour 2 different days. So hopefully the scheduling will not be a problem. And also, like we were like Carmen was talking about, those youth that are in the program, since most of them are there a minimum of 6 months, you should be able to have that same youth throughout that 10-week or that 20-hour course. So that shouldn't be a problem. The only problem being our kids come and go at different times, so they don't all come in January and then leave 6 months later. So they're coming and going. So that's going to be the struggle within the programs, and that's why it may be difficult for them to get a group of 10 kids that are going to be there for the next 10 or 12 weeks all together. So that's going to be the tough part on our end. But if you can be flexible with maybe 8 in a class or something, that would be better than not having a STAR program at a particular facility. So I think that's all I have. If there are questions, I would be more than happy to answer any of those, if I can.
Yes, if you have any questions, thank you so much, Cindy. If there are any questions, please go ahead and enter those in the chat box now, and give me a moment while I scroll through what has been coming through while you were talking. And I am also unmuting another one of our DJJ staff, Carla Green, so that she's able to also respond to your questions. So starting off with, there's one, do they have, oh, sorry, that's not the one. I don't want to skip over too many of them and miss your questions here. Okay, one question was, will the non-secure, high-risk, and maximum risk youth take the courses together or in 3 separate groups? And I do see here, Carla, that you responded. For the sake of the others hearing it, you stated that these are all separate facilities. So the students would never, from those various facilities, be attending a class together. Okay, the next question, all students are eligible for the course. Yes, that will already have been determined before the referral even gets to you as the provider. So DJJ staff knows exactly what the requirements are for referring students to VR using the STAR system, and then the youth technician will verify all of that information. So all of the ones being referred to you have already been cleared for services.
And Carmen, this is Carla. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think Kate may have also been referring to, in that question, referring to this, to all of those facilities. So I think she was referring to the non-secure, high risk, and max, if all of those will be included as being referrals, and that's why I said yes. So all of those programs will, if they are eligible with the IEP or 504 plan, yes. So there's no differentiation between any of those facilities.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, our next question, do they have school vacations where we could schedule 20 hours in 1 week? Okay,
this is Carla again, and this is a great question. Typically, our DJJ school is year-round, and we don't have the same school schedule as the school districts. We may have a couple of days here and there that are extra. We have teacher planning days, which that may be a great opportunity for you to get some extra hours in. But again, that would have to be very specific planning with that program. I would maybe encourage you to get a school calendar, so you know that the days that they may have professional development. But just keep in mind, a lot of times on those days, the programs will plan activities, especially if they are able to leave the facility. They may plan activities and have other things scheduled. So again, I'd encourage you to get a school calendar and just really work with the program contact to see if that is an option, which I think that's a great suggestion actually, but it will just have to be a lot of planning.
Okay, great. All right, next question is, will we be able to find out how much more time each youth has left at the time they are referred to us?
I don't think that would be a problem. Cindy, I'm assuming that we would be able to give that information?
I would think that we would be able to get a guesstimate anyway. Yeah.
Sure. And also keep in mind, sometimes their times do change. I wouldn't say that they would leave any sooner. It's typically maybe if something occurs, they may have time attached, but it's typically never earlier than expected.
Right.
All right, our next question, if the students are going to be coming in and out of class, how do we make sure they complete the course?
You want me to answer that? You want
yes,
me to answer that, Carla?
Go ahead.
I think there's a little confusion maybe. I don't really think they're going to be coming in and out of the class. They come and go at the programs at different times, but I think what they're going to try to do at the program level is, say we start a class in January. Maybe some of those kids have been there for 3 months, and maybe some of those kids have only been there for a month. So the kids are coming in and out of the commitment program at different times, but they're going to look at that youth's length of stay and try to make sure that every kid that they put in that class that starts at the beginning of January is going to be able to fulfill that schedule for the STAR program.
Thank you, Cindy.
And Carmen, I may have a question for you too, and others may have this question. If for some reason something happens where a student, maybe a behavior issue where one student isn't able to attend class for that particular session, how does the provider need to handle that as far as if they miss one class?
If they miss one class, well, I guess I'm kind of posing the question to you. Now, they can make up the class time.
Okay.
So my question for you then, Carla, would be, would they just need to coordinate with the program staff to be able to get back in there to deliver those service hours to the student?
To that one student?
Yes.
Yes, and it may just be a matter of maybe they could just stay a little later for one student, maybe the next time that they come, or however they need to work that out. That was a question that I had as we were discussing this.
Great. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, our next question is, if the student does not complete the class, can we still bill for payment? So, and I think this was actually echoed in a previous question that came through too. And as I mentioned earlier, all the students have to complete all 20 hours of training for you to be able to bill for that student. And you just heard Cindy say they're going to work with you in terms of scheduling to ensure that all of those students are able to likely complete those 20 hours within their stay. If something happens where the student leaves the facility and has not completed those hours, if you have the ability to make up those hours with them, then that's acceptable, but they have to complete the 20 hours of service for you to be able to bill for them. Next question is, if a student does not complete the course, will we be given information where student will be moving to possibly complete the course? Anita, I believe that would be, okay, in this instance, well, I'm trying to compare it to the other process that we have for the students with the traditional eligibility process. And in that process, the VR counselor transfers the case back to the youth's home county. I don't believe that there would be any issue with the provider who's currently working with that student to be notified by the youth tech where the youth's home county is, to see if you would be available to deliver the services to them back in their home county if they have hours missing. Okay, all right, I will come back to this one question about when we're going to start the program, and give me a moment to scroll back up because there were a few more questions that came in just before Cindy started talking. Give me just a moment, please. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, and I believe I answered that. This question was, so if the student leaves the facility before the 10 weeks, we lose the hours worked with them? Again, you can try to make every accommodation to meet up with the student after they exit to finish up those 20 hours of service.
And I will say something at this. It is possible. I wouldn't say that it happens a lot, but it is possible. Let's say an event happens and the student is transferred to another facility before their expected release date. It does happen from time to time. So when you are determining whether or not you're going to accept the referral and I guess accept the class for the group of students, if you're expecting 10, I would minus that by 8 or 9, or I'm sorry, by 2 to make it 8 or 9, because there's just that possibility. So if you're really accepting to teach the course and expecting 10, I would just caution you that expect 8 if you're looking at, you know, your money wise, because it's a possibility that something could happen and something could occur, and we just don't want you to have that expectation that there will be absolutely 10 that will start and finish. And I'm kind of giving worst case scenario, but it's possible that it will happen.
Thank you for that, Carla. Okay. All right, next question. Since we're only providing self-advocacy, will the rate of pay for the VR Summer Youth Program change? What about purchase orders already approved? Okay, and this is why I mentioned about us all getting on the same page, because I know a lot of you are involved in the Summer Youth Program and some other services with VR. This is completely separate from the VR Summer Youth Program. This isn't even the same self-advocacy training that's offered. This one is the VR-approved self-advocacy training that you had to go through the specific VR training on about the curriculum. In the Summer Youth Program, you were able to develop your own curriculum for self-advocacy training. So the rate of pay for this self-advocacy training is $400 for the 20 hours of service. That's for self-advocacy course 1. And then, like I mentioned, after the youth exits the facility, they may be referred for self-advocacy course 2, and that's an additional $500 for 25 hours of service. So the rate is totally different. It's completely separate from the Summer Youth Program. It's not the same thing. Okay, and I think those were all the questions. Okay, one moment. Wait, we got a few more that came in. Hold on. Okay, could a vendor offer a 2 to 4 hour Saturday or Sunday student session? That one's for DJJ.
Sure, and I will say yes. I will say yes, but it really just depends on the program and how you are really working, who you're working with, and if they're able to. A lot of times they have activities on Saturdays, so that may be difficult, but it'll just depend on the program. But we have let the facilities know that they can be flexible with their scheduling, whether it's during the school day, after school, or on the weekends.
Okay, great. All right, next question. What type of documentation would be needed if we were to complete the program with the individual post-discharge from a commitment program? I don't believe that there's some additional documentation needed in that case. It would be the same documentation that is required of you for delivering that service. But that question came from Laura. If you want to contact me after this this webinar, I'll check into that just to verify that information, and I can share that with all of the rest of the providers. But I don't believe it would be anything different. But I'll definitely look into that for you. Okay, next question. I know you mentioned 2 hours to begin. Is it possible that a facility will allow 4 hours of instruction at a time if the provider is traveling far? And I mean, Carla, you can address this, but I think she's already stated that it's really going to depend on scheduling with the program staff and what other activities the youth has on their schedule. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And just knowing those students in the population, 4 hours may be difficult to keep their attention, to be completely honest. But it is definitely a possibility, and it's something that maybe you could try to see how that works, and if it doesn't, you can adjust the time, but it's a possibility.
Okay, thank you. All right, next question. How can I access the self-advocacy assessment training? Victor, please send me an email following this webinar, and I will get you a link to everything that you need to complete that. Okay, and it looks like those are all our questions. So if there I'll give you a moment to add anything else. There was one question I hadn't addressed, but I'm about to address that regarding our timeline. If there's anything else, please go ahead and enter it into the chat box now. That's all I have to share with you today. If there are any further questions, please feel free to contact me by email or phone. This webinar has been recorded and will be posted on the internet. And I will send that link out to you in the next few days. And again, thank you and enjoy your day. And thank you, Carla, and thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.